The following audio may contain coarse language and other material that may not be suitable for a younger audience. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, we may spoil anything and everything, so you have been warned. I love piss water coffee. It's the best thing out there. Hello and welcome to the Movie Gang podcast. We have a bunch of lovable assholes today here to talk about movies and specifically the Oscars this year. All right, introductions. First up, we got Andrew Rieger, who has come back from California and he didn't actually disappear. He wasn't spirited away. He's here. He's alive. He wants to talk about movies and he misses his friends. Tell us about yourself, Andrew.
All right, well, I'm Andrew Rieger. I am a California native, but I met all of these fine, lovely people in Texas, and movies are my life, and it's pretty sad, but I don't really have a life outside of movies, so this is sort of my outlet. And Jack is drinking coffee out of the box. So.
Are you sure it's coffee or is it wine? I don't know.
It's coffee.
I was going to say, it looks like it's coffee.
I have a box of coffee,
boxed wine.
and it's awesome.
That's definitely boxed wine.
Doesn't
So
drink
we're off
box
the rails
wine.
in just a minute already? That was fast.
Not even.
I was just hoping that the box was going to, dump.
I mean, if there was alcohol in that, I would have lost a lot of respect for you, Jack.
Come on.
Yeah, for all of our listeners, just so you know, Andrew's talking, and then the rest of us see Jack pull a box out of nowhere, and we all silently lose our
Giant box
shit.
of coffee.
Oh my god.
We did a course here at today, and so we had all this free coffee and desserts. So I'm living off old bagels and boxed coffee. So it's pretty excellent. Anyways, moving on, we have Ben Haworth.
Hello, everybody, and good to be back.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Next up,
Good
we
to be
got
back
Bobbye.
for the second podcast. I guess I can introduce myself because I never really did that. I'm a reporter, and I work for a small newspaper in Wisconsin. It's balls cold here, and that's something that I've had to get used to. I'm a Texas native, but I've been living up here for a year and a half. Please do.
Can I introduce myself now?
Go,
Never
Ben!
did last time either.
Run, Ben, run!
All right, I'm Ben. I'm an editor from Houston, Texas. I work in wedding videos right now. I'm probably going to be back into making movies. And the movie I worked on called Night of Cups is now out in theaters, so you should go watch it.
All right, Peter.
What's up, everybody? I'm Peter Dancy, also in Houston, though born in San Antonio, because my dad was in the Army, so I moved around a lot, met all of these lovable assholes. Also in Texas. Yeah, this is basically a big-ass reunion of college, and I love every moment of it.
Yeah, big college reunion.
Awesome. Sean, you're up.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm last third-year law student in Austin, Texas, about to become a lawyer, I guess, in a few months, which is kind of terrifying. But as a third-year law student, I basically live like a retiree, so I get to see all these movies, which is great because I love movies.
It's like there's an old folks home, but it's populated entirely by law students who just don't give a shit anymore. He's like, where's my money? I should be making money already. I need to be I don't know, screwing all these kids in the place of all these priests or helping them screw all these kids so I can make all that money. We know you'd do it, Sean. We know you would. Topical. Okay, that was a little too harsh. Sorry, Sean. And next up we have Trevor.
Hey, everybody. I wait tables and I read the
Oh, there he
Atlantic.
is.
That kind of suns me up at the moment.
Trevor, give us a better introduction. Come on. Tell us about your
That's about it,
transcendental
man.
self.
Do I need to make my own WWE intro for Trevor because it's so quiet? We just need to do it for ourselves.
I always bump it up.
Did y'all not hear me? I'm sorry.
That's most Trevor wants to do.
What
We love
the
you,
listener
Trevor.
needs to know is that unfortunately every day I spend at least, a half hour bumping up Trevor's audio levels in Audacity because he talks so quietly like this.
I'm right in the mic. What do you want?
I don't care. All right, and who else is in the chat? Is that it? Is that I think Will left for today, unfortunately. All right, well, my name is
the
Jack
ghost of
Newman.
Will might be around somewhere.
Yeah, he's haunting our
We'll come and
chat.
go.
I can see like another person in the chat. It's like that terrible Skype movie, whatever. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, hello, my name is Jack Newman, and I'll be your host for the Movie Gang podcast. I am a simulation and technology expert that works at wedding photographer and videographer. And today we're going to be talking about the Oscars with this, again, lovable gang of assholes. All right. First up, we wanted to talk a bit about point counterpoint and talking about the overall feel of the awards ceremony this year. And obviously, we can't necessarily separate it out from the accusations of racism and the other thing going on there. So we thought we'd go ahead and talk about the overall feel and how it went about talking about it. So first up for counterpoint today, we have Sean Solis.
Sure. Yeah, so I thought the whole Oscars So White and Chris Rock's discussion of that predominated the Oscars. It went on far too long, from the opening to the closing, and literally every skit he did kind of brought that back in. And kind of my biggest, other than the fact that it went on too long, I thought there was a valid point to be made, but, kind of when you look at, diversity in the film industry, it's actually pretty representative to what, minority percentages are in, like, the U.S. population. So, like, percentage of African Americans in like films who get speaking roles is, I think, around 13%, which is about what they make up in the population. And I think if you look at other professions, like my profession, the legal profession, African Americans are only like 3% of partners at firms. So it's like, it seems to me that while it's a valid point, I think there are bigger problems out there, and it seemed like it was just kind of a it took it a little too far, I think, and so that was kind of my biggest opposition to it.
Tell us how you really feel, Sean. Counterpoint to that, I would say to some extent, it's hard for me to not disagree with you on a level about the extended part of the Oscars. As somebody who really cares about these awards and cares about the outside of the awards, including director, I would agree with the public's outrage to some extent, but only in the top categories, specifically those that talk about actors and the best picture. I think that's the issue, is that people are looking at those categories, because outside of those categories, the Oscars are incredibly diverse, with both women as well as Inarritu winning. I think, is that 2 or 3? I don't know. You have
Two.
Two.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
two.
Yeah, it was 2 straight.
Cinematographer,
Yes.
cinematographer who was with him as well on both those movies just won 3.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah,
Lubetsky is
Lubetsky
third.
just won 3.
Which I have a lot to say about.
We'll get there. I know,
We'll get to
Andrew.
it. We'll get to it.
I lost that one too. I know. The point is that for me, it's hard to classify the Oscars as racist to any extent, because in the categories that I care about. But at the same time, we have to understand that people are looking at different categories and different things. So to some extent, saying that having a talk in the Oscars was probably appropriate. I do agree with you, probably, Sean, in that it would have been better to say it once and say it very well, opposed to making the whole event kind of like parceled with it through. It felt like it's like, yay, look how cool we are type of deal. I felt like it was like a granddad essentially not talking down to me, but trying to convince me of something through the whole thing. And I think it may have been not overblown to some extent, but it definitely felt.
I think it just made him look worse.
If I could speak to that about excuse me, about how it should have been said once, I feel that to that point, Chris Rock didn't necessarily do a good job, because I feel that there were 3 people who said it a hell of a lot better. Kerry Washington, before the Oscars started, before the Oscars even started, when she was doing a pre-show interview about how she admires people like Jada Pinkett Smith and boycotting the Oscars, and how she still feels that there should be people at both sides, those who aren't there, those who are there, to have that conversation. And then also Kevin Hart, who essentially called out like all actors and actresses of color, not just those who are black, and said, yes, we see you. Don't feel that you're being completely ignored, because we know that you're doing a good job, and we hope that you continue to do so. And every time I want to say her name, I always forget the president of the Academy, when she came out and spoke, and yes, she brought up how
Cheryl
the Academy.
Boone Isaacs.
Thank you. she brought up how yes, the Academy itself will make strides to have more diversity in who chooses nominees for the various categories. But she also put it up to Hollywood as a whole with how everyone should take active roles in trying to bring more diversity into whatever films are made. So like who's casted, who's directed, who's producing, distribution. So I feel that those three made. I feel that those three, what they had to say was better than what Chris Rock was trying to say in like his little bits here and there throughout the show. They to me, when you put them all together, did a better job of that.
I would argue. I would agree with Pete. Go ahead, Ben.
I think Chris Rock had an interesting angle to it, which he was coming at it in a very angry, cynical way. And I do think it is interesting, though I do think at a certain point it did feel like when he made one line, I can't remember which line in particular, you could hear a hush throughout the audience and this kind of weird, nervous laughter, and I think I wanted more of that, and it felt like as the night went on, it almost felt like, Hollywood was like, yeah, we are racist, but we're not going to change. It definitely had that sort of angle to it after a while. But I think the most interesting subversive thing he did was when he went to Compton, and he was interviewing people coming out of the movie theater, and they said, have you seen Bridge of Spies? Have you seen Martian? Have you seen this? I'm like, I've never heard of those movies. I don't know what those movies are. I thought it was very interesting because it kind of speaks to, representation in movies and the kind of movies that audiences see or not see. And also to see Oscars in general. I mean, it's interesting that Spotlight is the third, I just checked today, it's the third lowest earning Best Picture winner ever, under Birdman and Hurt Locker, which both came out very recently as well. So you're seeing this sort of transition where very low earning movies that very few people see don't win Oscars, or win Oscars rather, and these bigger movies don't. And that's also probably why the Oscars are probably the lowest rated they've ever been as of this Oscar telecast. Partially it's also just television just falling apart, but I think it is very interesting that it's not just diversity, you're also seeing just a nichification of the industry, which is why I think there needs to be more diversity. I think there are new elements where you're seeing Spanish films, and you're seeing black audience films, and you're seeing other films that are creating something very interestingly in sort of lower budget films that are finding up very, very big audiences, like Straight Outta Compton did, like Creed did. And
so
I think that's where we need to see more of the change in the industry, more than just
the Oscars themselves.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I agree with that point, and I think that's the thing is, like, you can look at it from different angles and judge different parts of this. I definitely, like, because we see this in a thing, and you talk about the Oscars, like, representing the country to some extent, like, and I'm going to bring up a little bit of a point too, and I'm going off John Oliver here, that said, and he quoted Ridley Scott a while ago. He's like, I simply can't do a $200 million movie with Muhammad so and so, when he was talking about Exodus. When he was talking about the movie Exodus, because in terms of whitewashing it, and I think that the point that was he made that it's an incredibly racist quote, and I think he must have done it offhandedly, is all I can think, because it's terrible, especially calling him Muhammad so and so.
Even with
it was so bad.
Right, as did Gods of Egypt, which also had a whitewash.
I am so glad that. Wait, has it tanked? Did Gods of Egypt tank?
Yeah, it only made like 14 million.
Holy crap!
I was so pissed.
At least domestically, it's doing okay in like Russia of all things. I don't know why. Russia loves it. I don't know why.
Russians are racist. Okay, that's
racist. Well, the thing for me, even with that, is it's less about who you see on screen as much as what stories are being told. I mean, even Inarritu doesn't tell stories that you would necessarily think of reflecting like a Mexican immigrant. But I don't know that he's. None
that he's done recently. He used to, like with Amaris Peros, I think, but none, not Birdman or Revenant.
Mm-hmm. And just that it's less likely that is what he would become known for. That kind of story could have that kind of mainstream success is more for me the issue, I think.
So one of the things that I thought was most kind of disappointing about the Oscars was that moment where they brought out like the 3 Chinese kids who are apparently from PwC. And,
that was.
Oh God, that was awful.
I think that's the thing. No, well, I just feel like that's the thing is like they didn't. It felt like they were trying to figure out how not to be racist, and they got like a whole bunch of ideas in a room. Like they went and had a crazy brainstorm, and they threw everything at the wall. And then like they have some good moments, and like Peter was talking about in terms of like the director coming out and talking about it. And that's the thing is like her direct response was all I really needed to hear. And then there were just these straight up racist little bits all the way through. Like in opposition of you, Ben, I really didn't like. I really, really did not like when the subversive thing that Chris Rock did and was talking at the movie theater. Like, I thought it was edited in such a way to make African American people seem like they don't go see movies.
Right, and I think it's fair that some people said it was like, I think maybe Peter, you said this, or
yeah, Peter brought that point up too.
Let's find the crazy black guy to put on the news bit.
Oh,
seen,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like,
and I could definitely see that angle.
That's just what that whole video. That's how I felt. It's like, you, like, really, Chris Rock, you as a black comedian, feel that you're doing black people any kind of favor by going out and finding black people who have not seen any movies at all except for Straight Outta Compton.
Fair enough.
Yeah, of course that individual's like it. Of course, like his view is skewed, and that's the thing is like. But there are absolutely people of every race that aren't plugged into Oscar season. Like I don't even think like we are movie people, and we didn't see everything that's at the Oscars. It's just not possible, and I think that's the thing is like. I think that there is an underlying like bit of like I think for me the only times the Oscars were racist is when they were trying to not be racist. like it's I think like before like I was upset with everybody. It's like I think the existing problem is not the Oscars so much as the fact that they're picking from a pool that's inherently racist in terms of a problem with Hollywood.
When it started last year with Selma, it's like it's not so much that Selma didn't get nominated; it's that Selma shouldn't be the only film that we're looking at to get nominated.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that's the issue. Is like it points out like at the worst people attacked the wrong person, but then the wrong person that got attacked ended up being racist for it. I think that's the issue that's happened.
Well, and it was just black and white. You know, it's like there was no talk of Latinos or Asian. Immigration into this film is terrible, and gay, lesbian, disabled. Like there's so many other elements to go.
Well, we had Carol. I mean, we had Carol and the Danish girl.
Right, and the Danish girl was played by a non-transgender actor.
No,
and a transgender actress
I agree with that.
Like,
there's less representation.
And a transgender performer who could have performed didn't end up getting invited. There were certainly elements of people all across the board getting shafted, but it was very black or white.
Do you think Eddie Redmayne was wrong for playing that role then?
No, I mean, I kind of go back and forth about the transgender actor thing, but I think you definitely had Maya Taylor, who I think from Tangerine was one of the best supporting actresses of the year, who got shafted. And I think it's completely ridiculous that we had a nominee who's transgender, one of the song actresses who didn't get to perform because she's not as famous as Sam Smith, who gave one of the most boring performances ever.
All of that swaying. That swaying.
Oh my god!
All right,
that's such an upset.
If everyone's okay with it, we're going to go ahead and move on. I think that's enough time for just this bit about looking at the overall performance and talking about it. I want to go ahead and talk, and I don't necessarily want to move on. We don't have enough time today to talk about every individual Oscar that came out, but I want to talk about people looking at trends in the Oscars that you think is going to affect the film industry and looking at specific things to coming up with in terms of like what's new that's going to come out from this and looking at like what's popular in the Oscars and how that might affect the film industry. For me specifically, and I know that Ben and a couple other people agree with me on this, I was both shocked, and I'm going to say this, I got for the VFX award, I got it right that it was in Ex Machina over the other.
That's amazing. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That was a big shock.
Well, no,
I still need to see Ex Machina.
I bet with my heart about this, and that's what the thing is. It is a $15 million visual effects budget, post-winning over $200 million visual effects budgets in other movies. And the thing that I want to point out here is I think that it says, and again, you can talk about the Oscars and whether or not they're directed at all, but I think it says to some extent that individuals are looking at movies and looking at them, and the visual effects category is going in a direction that suggests that we're looking at good use of visual effects that is motivating the story or plot of the film. Like it has to be inherent to the film and the subject. And it's not about creating a world and making it unbelievable and filling the background with it. As most movies do, you have characters in the foreground and they see all this swirling visual effects around them. It's not about being able to create that. It's about being able to create subtle visual effects that help the story along. And that's the thing, is because the visual effects is as much a character in Ex Machina as anything else, because the weirdness of Alicia Vikander's performance in that film is enhanced by the way her character design is put out, and it actually informs the story as a whole about his attraction to her, and it ties back into like him and like the performance and like how it's going about, suggesting that like he becomes infatuated and was made to be infatuated with her. So in terms of that, I think that as the Oscars from that experience, from that expectation, going in a direction where they're saying the visual effects has to be well used as well as opposed to flashy, which is the long-winded version of saying, what do you guys think?
No, I definitely agree. I think it is very impressive that something has the best visual effects versus the most visual effects. Not that I didn't love visual effects in Star Wars or Mad Max, but it is very much
Not
like
Mad
you said,
Max.
visual effects telling the story. And,
Not Mad Max.
Creating
Not Mad Max.
A visual
Not
effects
Mad
are
Max,
more
Ben.
than just computer generated images.
Not Mad Max, Ben.
They're more than just computer generated images.
You knew that's where this was going, Jack.
But
You set him up.
Ex Machina, like you said, had a CGI character that was very much an integral part of the story. Which I don't think either the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes movies one, which is terrible because that is all about creating this emotion driven through CGI, and absolutely, I think should have won if it hadn't. I seem to recall one of them at least not winning, which is crazy to me. But like you said, I hope that is an example, whether or not it split the vote or whatever happened. It's great that
I think that's the agreement.
For that.
I want it to be the direction things are heading, but again, you explained to me most likely, and I actually would like you to explain to our viewers if you're willing, Ben.
Well, yeah, what I said to Jack was that, like, I think a lot of people might have voted for either Mad Max or Star Wars because they both thought those are the very pretty movies of the year, and then Ex Machina kind of slipped in. But even if it did, I don't think people care. It's still a visual idea of like, hey, for your $50 million movie, you can still win an Oscar. It's kind of crazy.
It was definitely in the nomination fee
with that low a budget could win in.
Or could even be a part of the category.
Moon win back in 2009 for $5 million. Like that looked amazing.
Yeah,
the visual effects. There's some really, really amazing stuff done in some of the smaller budget films.
Absolutely.
So I was really happy with the decision that Ex Machina won the visual effects award. I think what the best thing about that, and you're kind of getting at this point, Jack, the whole movie was about kind of the humanity of these androids. And you had kind of the visual effects not only playing into that, but kind of rebutting that idea, because the only reason you wouldn't know that they were human was, the excellent use of the visual effects. So it was a really kind of interesting thing that they were doing, kind of a dichotomy they were creating in the viewer's mind, and I thought really worked well.
I think that my only point here is I hope it's just a whole step away from like the George Lucas, and I know I want to crap on George Lucas some, but even in certain things like the Wachowski brothers, like with Jupiter Ascending,
Oh, Jesus.
I know, but it's this whole thing about filling the background and not motivating. Like the story could have been told in any other time because it's a very simplistic story, but it doesn't. There's such a detach between the visual effects and the world and what's going on between the characters, and I think that's the thing is. I think the VFX category should not be just about like who has the best, because then it's a money game. It's about good use of it.
One thing I thought was really exciting, that I don't know if it'll change anything, but it's a very interesting win. Another surprise of the night was Mark Rylance winning over Sylvester Stallone, which I think was two very interesting things, which is saying, hey, just because someone you think is going to win a legacy award doesn't mean necessarily they are, and B, it's an extremely subtle performance compared with every other. Even Mark Ruffalo, who gets a very subtle performance we'll talk about, he gets that one big Oscar clip moment we've all seen a million times.
It's so good.
I knew Robbie. We've seen it a million times, and it works in the movie, but you've seen it like a billion everywhere because it's the only Oscar-y moment. So I think it's kind of cool that we're now getting to a stage where it's like, hopefully it means that like really, really subtle, toned down, quiet performances might be more recognized, because often it is the more loud, screamy, big moments. The Al Pacino and Scent of a Woman.
I do think
so
we
I'm
saw
gonna
another legacy award be given out at the
Go ahead.
Oscars, though, because I really think that Leonardo DiCaprio won his Oscar more as a legacy and less for his actual performance in The Revenant. So, I mean, while it'd be kind of nice for the Academy to move away from legacy awards, and you clearly had a great career, you've never won one, here, let's give you one, for performances that really aren't as good as some of the previous performances of that actor or actress, well, that's where I'd like them to be moving to. They kind of did both in the same show.
No, it's true, and you also had the Alicia Vikander winning the You Had a Great Year award. Like, did we all really like Danish Girl that much? But she's so great in Ex Machina, she's such a great actress. It's like, give me
I thought she won for the wrong movie.
I don't understand why she wasn't nominated for
Okay,
Ex
all
Machina
right. We're getting
on
out
that
of
point.
control. Andrew, what's up? You were saying something.
It's specifically about Alicia Vikander. I think she definitely should have won for Ex Machina, not for the Danish Girl.
I do think
exactly,
she was in that
and that's
category
another
for the
good
wrong
example
reason.
of Academy being stuck in their ways. You win for historical biopic. You don't win for robot movie.
Yeah.
For acting. Yeah.
But that's very true, and I think that's the thing is like people like make fun of Leo not winning and winning for this for the Revenant, and that's the point is like he's been in better roles, he's been in better movies, he's deserved it more in different situations, and I think that's the issue is that a lot of people feel that the Oscars are political, and I think that might have been what led to such a charged atmosphere about the concerns about racism is because it doesn't appear to be a vote. It doesn't really seem to represent the public or anyone directly, and I think that's the thing is it's its own thing, and I think that's the thing is the columns around it, like no one says, oh, what was the best movie, what do you think the Oscars are going to think this year? No, it's like, oh, well, what do you think, like, you know, I look at what the politics in the Oscars are to try to figure out like what's going to win, and it's a totally different thing because like I don't think Spotlight should have won Best Picture. I mean, I think it's an absolute fantastic movie, and like as a former journalist, like it really speaks to me, but like at the same time I think like, you know, saying the Oscars represents what people or what is even a good vote is, I don't think that's true. How much does anyone agree or disagree?
I mean, I think the thing about Spotlight is very interesting. I think it won because of preferential voting, which, just to explain real quick, is instead of just whoever wins a popular vote or whoever gets the most votes, the way preferential voting works is that you rank your choices from 1 through 8, and then if, say, your number 1 choice, like mine, is Room, and it gets eliminated, my number 2 choice is Mad Max, it would have gone in the Mad Max pile. If Mad Max loses, it goes into the Spotlight pile, which is my number 3, etc., etc. And so I think Revenant was probably more number 1s, if I would guess, but it's also probably a lot of 8s. Like, I heard a lot of people being like, I hate this movie, I hate everything about it, I hate people talking about it all the time. And Spotlight is just a movie I think a lot of people see and they're like, I really like it. And it's the same thing. Like, I would have loved to see Room to win. I would have loved to see Mad Max win. It would have been a lot. But Spotlight's a movie I'm going to look back and go, there were worse options. You know, I like that movie a lot. And I'm glad it won, but you're right. There's something about it that makes me go, yes, thank you.
It's a very good 3 on that list, and I think that's why it won. It's a very, like, you're like, oh man, like, I bet it's like one of those things you're probably looking at Mad Max, is like, does it really deserve it? And you're looking at all these other things. Like, I can see the situation that we know, but like, let's count that out for a second. Cause
I actually think that Spotlight deserved to win Best Picture. Just if you stack up all the other movies that came out this year, so many of them had flaws. Like The Revenant is just not an enjoyable movie straight up. Like it's not fun to watch and sit there for 2.5 hours. Spotlight's like legitimately enjoyable. It makes an important political point, and it does a really good job of having a great cast that I think all no one actor really stands out. It comes together on the strength of the cast, on the strength of the writing, and I legitimately thought it was the best film that came out this year.
So do we?
It seems like the.
Let me just make this as an official thing. Do we kind of want to go ahead and move into discussions? Do you want to talk about the Best Picture thing, and then we'll move into like a general rating of Spotlight?
I think Trevor had a point.
Yeah, well, I just had one other thing to say about the Best Picture thing is that we seem to be implying that a better use of the Best Picture nomination would be to look at something more controversial, like that is more likely to be on either the top of that preferential voting list or the bottom of it, and that Spotlight, because it tended just to be sort of in the middle or towards the close of the top, that would maybe be the argument for it not deserving that. But
I think more.
I mean, it depends on what kind of controversy you're talking about, really.
Right, and I think it's more like.
Sense.
I don't think there's anything there that was like Tree of Life versus the artist. You know what I mean? Where, like, Tree of Life is going to survive the generations way better than the artist, whether you like Tree of Life or not. You know, I think you can see why people still acclaim that movie and no one really talks about the artist anymore. And I think the artist is one of those ones.
Right.
Yeah, I liked it. I really liked the artist. Who doesn't? It's fun. You know, versus a lot of people probably saw Tree of Life and go, screw that movie. I hate it. I don't get anything about it. You know, and I don't think that with Spotlight. I think Spotlight is a very, very, very good film, but it is definitely a kind of it's not a film that reaches for. It gets exactly where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like it gets exactly to what it's aiming to do, and maybe doesn't get to that huge echelon. But how many films do really? You know, so.
Well, I think for me this year, the cool thing about The Big Short being in there as well is that it helped show what Spotlight did really, really, really well, which is take a boring subject and make it super freaking interesting. And I think that's the success of this film, is like, it's not a boring subject per se, but the day-to-day work of journalism can be very, very mind-numbing and boring, and it's about going door to door just like they do in the movie. But at the same time, it imbues it with such energy and thought-provokingness, and talking about like the experience and what's wrong, and it gives a subject that shouldn't be that interesting, and it takes it and uses like the magic of it to make it into such a compelling piece. And that's the thing, is like, I wasn't compelled in Big Short, and I think that's the thing, is like Big Short has an even more like in a subject that I'm even more versed in terms of like the crash, and something that I probably would consider myself more interested in. But Spotlight, in terms of looking at the journalism and everything about it, and really talking about the journalism, because the movie's about the journalism and about that to some extent. And I think that in that way, it's just such a better piece, and it compares itself off and lends itself to a comparison in such a way that it makes people go, holy crap, this film is good.
So I think it's that I completely agree with that, but I would just make the point that the biggest problem with The Big Short is that it's such a complicated, the subject matter is so complicated. Like, you're having to explain to the viewer what a collateralized debt obligation is, and I'm going to be a securities lawyer for a living. And I still had a hard time wrapping my head around like everything that went on.
Really, and that's fair. Like, priest, a bunch, the Catholic Church covered up a bunch of rapes versus the sub-debt prime mortgage. Like it's I'm not saying The Big Short doesn't have a harder like row to hoe. It definitely does. Like, but the issue is like taking subject matter that might be considered boring and presenting it in such a way as to make it compelling. Like, I might not necessarily have understood The Big Short at all the points, but you could have made the way it was presented in such a fashion more compelling for me to watch. Like, it's true. Like, I didn't even follow like the timeline of events of Spotlight, because it does go over the timeline like very, very well. I can't name back to you the timeline of exactly what happened and where it is and where they broke the case and that sort of thing. Like, I just can't, because I can't remember all the elements of it. But I know what happens, and I know what's happening basically in The Big Short as well, and it doesn't present it in such a way to make it as interesting.
I think that where Spotlight really succeeds is standing on the writing, and there's a reason it won an Oscar for its script. The way that film is written allows you to sink into the story in a way that gets you completely engrossed. I really appreciated the moments whereas a lot of movies would have chose to take on conflict, specifically it's the scene they showed during the Oscars, where you have the reporter come in essentially presenting information that I know that you knew about this. You've written a story about this crisis, 10 years ago. Why didn't you do anything more? And instead of having a big scene of confrontation, they simply just let it ride, making it it's a powerful but mellow moment. And I think that's really where Spotlight succeeds, is that it doesn't have to go for, it pulls its punches. It doesn't necessarily hit all the hard moments as much as it could, but it chooses to let it be subtle, and I really think that's where that movie thrived. Aside from the fact that I really think that they nailed the journalism process, and sometimes there's lulls, and sometimes the story doesn't progress as quickly, so you have moments in the film where you can feel the way the journalist would have felt working on the story, where things have slowed and things get frustrating, and it's a long waiting game, and then suddenly you speed it right back up, and you've got Mike Ruffalo running to the courthouse to go pick up documents. That's what it feels like.
And suddenly it's September 11th and you're screwed, like, because that's the only story that's going to be on anyone's news radar. Like, I think it nailed it. It absolutely nailed every element of it, and maybe that's why I probably think that's why I wouldn't necessarily. I think I enjoyed it more than the average viewer was, because I have a back knowledge of some of the things, and both you and me studied this, Bobbye, to some extent. Like, I think that, like, watching somebody be masters of the craft and understanding that the masters and the doggedness of how it's doing and, like, suffering through the process, I think it's extra enjoyable for me and you. And I think that's the thing, is I'm taking a step back from it and saying, like, but is this necessarily an enjoyable process for everyone in the same way? Because it is a movie about people running door to door.
I can't speak to if non-journalists would enjoy it as much, but I think that it really, I mean, it nailed it as what it is to be a journalist, down to the clothes they dress the actors in, to the way they cut their hair and giving Ruffalo that terrible, terrible haircut, to showing the inside of their apartments and how sad and empty and barren they are because they're never home.
Everyone is now looking at Bobbie's feed to see how sad and barren her apartment is. I think Sean has the more barren apartment, so I think Law
But
Student
it's like even down to the way that they showed, like, you know, like the things they ate and drank in the film. I mean, it's just these really subtle moments that I think that they must have spent a lot of time consulting with the actual journalists who worked on the original story, which shows in the script and shows in the final product that they did their homework.
Yeah. Well, you can see in the background of the story, like if you look at like that, like a lot of guys came up and were talking about this movie after the fact, like both the Vatican and some other people, and they were talking about how they were presented in the story, and the journalist came out and almost immediately defended, saying like, yeah, they did not want it to happen. They were protecting the school. They said all this negative stuff, and like they were, like you can tell, like the person was just right there with the individuals, and it definitely was going to get their physical story. Like this, I think that's the thing that really did shock me, is it's not a story about victims. It's not a story about the actions. It really is a story about journalism, and I think that's probably why I love it so much.
It's a story about a story.
Right. And I think one thing that's very impressive about the film, I mean, one thing is interesting is Tom McCarthy, who also made The Cobbler this year, very fascinatingly.
I know, right?
Please, everyone see The Cobbler. It's so weird. It's so terrible. And it's so fascinating. But
when you put it that way.
He did all his own research. There was no book about these guys. He basically had to go to all these journalists and do kind of his own journalism and talk to the people and tell the story, like, how'd you find this part out, how you do this part. So it is a journalist story about journalism. And I think the interesting thing about it is so bare bones. Like, the closest thing you can compare it to is All the President's Men. All the President's Men still
comparison a lot of people have been drawing.
It's a very obvious one because it's so like journalism focused and trying to cover a conspiracy, but that one also has like a William Goldman script and like the kind of 70s paranoid thriller.
Well, it's a lot more theatrical.
A little bit more of a it's a lot more. And William Goldman's this amazing writer. He's like not as punchy as Aaron Sorkin, but much punchier than Tom McCarthy was. And I think that's the interesting thing about this is when you get amazing lines like it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes one to abuse one. They really stick out in your mind and they actually feel like real moments. Rather than Aaron Sorkin, as much as I love the man, it's like every single line is like everyone had 5 weeks to come up with that line, versus this one where it's like every once in a while someone just have that perfect way of analyzing that situation and it really sticks with you.
Right. I think that's amazing. I think back to the deservance of the Oscars and kind of talk about it. It's about what you want to see in terms of that. And as much as we say, like we talk about like we wanting the Oscars to represent people and represent the mainstream public to some extent, I think too like it's a better movie than you want. And I think that like where I disagree and like where I unfortunately agree with Bobbye a little bit about Mad Max is, as much as I like Mad Max, I don't necessarily think I would have wanted it. I disagree. Like if Mad Max had won Best Picture, I would have been so shocked. I just would have been happy about it, just because like it had just been absolutely so shocking. But I don't necessarily see wanting to win versus a film like this. I like that the Oscars don't do things that are representative of the public and what people saw. I like that they pick things out of kind of nowhere and kind of represent something that might be subtle. And as much as like Mark Rylance, Ben liked that Mark Rylance is won for his subtle performance. Mark Ruffalo was absolutely amazing.
Oh, he's fantastic. No, if he had won too, that would have been great, and he would have won.
No, yeah, he was deserving, and I think that's, and no offense to Kevin Costner, but like he's doing his like sturdy, like I don't know, kind of like father figure thing, which is kind of his thing, and he fills right into that role. But it's less transformative to some extent than Ruffalo. He's not that character. Like if you go and like Google the guy and you're like, holy crap, like is that Mark Ruffalo? No, because or is that Mark Ruffalo playing the guy? Like he investigated the individual, he took out the performance, and he found in the guy's an oddball, and he represented that to such an extent. And and lived in that character. And I think to some extent that's like what I want to see is like more of these roles. And like and I know that like people are like, oh yeah, you know, he's shouty, like we always give it to the people that are shouting. I disagree. I think I like this performance because it's not necessarily subtle, but at the same time it actually truly embodies the character with the rest of the abilities.
Well, I think it's a subtle performance. He just gets that moment, which works so well in the film because it's literally about patience. The entire film is we have the story, we can publish it at any time, but if we don't nail it 100%, it's not going to stick. We've done this before. If we don't wait till the exact right moment, we have the exact right story, it's not going to stick, and this has to stick. We can't let this happen anymore. And so it works in that, you know, that moment when he is like, you know, come on, people, this is children, like this is still happening, we have to stop it now, you know. And you get the frustration. It's just unfortunate it's the only clip you see if you haven't seen the film. You know?
I definitely would have picked a different showcase clip for that performance. I thought that was the most showy bit, and I think it wasn't really, it wasn't a good example of, I think, his range. So
no, I like that
one thing I want
piece. I just don't think that, like, you know, I mean, I agree with him. Like, you know, I think you go off what I think people are judging it based upon the performance, and I think that's good. Like, what do you show at the Oscars is, and like that's not representative of the performance, and I would agree with that. Like, I wouldn't have ever called him shouty. I think he gets emotional with the moments, but I think that it is still a subtle performance. I mean, that was a good category this year. Like, let's just be honest about that. Like, it was a good category, and no offense to Stallone, but I just don't think he deserved it for that role. And I liked Creed a lot, but I just I liked, and I think I liked it. And I actually think it needed to be there for some more camera work, actually, because that 4-minute fight scene where it's just like the camera's in the ring and moving around and having people at stock positions. It's a really cool shot, and it's not very complicated, but like it still had some good camera work. And
right.
I just
Ryan
don't think
Coogler and his DP are definitely some of my snubs.
I know. I just think it didn't need to be there for any of the acting roles.
Yeah, I don't think
I had Michael B. Jordan, but I mean, I'm kind of iffy on. I like Michael B. Jordan a lot. That's part of it.
I didn't like. I don't know. I didn't like the performance. I'm sorry. I didn't like Rocky's performance either. And like he is so the character that, you know, we call him Rocky, and you know exactly who it is. Like, he is that character. Like, I don't think he lives in his skin like to such an extent.
He's beyond it. Yeah.
You call him you call Stallone either Rocky or Rambo. Let's be honest. He is not himself ever. He is never himself.
And that's I mean, in terms of like ancient action heroes, but as well as somebody that just like, I mean, there's something about him that he was so like he's limited in such an extent. Like, you know, he has like we're not going to get into a discussion about him.
They're both 15.
I don't think anyone walked out of the movie theater after seeing Creed and was like, yeah, Sylvester Stallone deserves to win Best Supporting Actor this year, you know?
I think the Academy did until the very end. I don't know what happened, but like, he got a standing ovation. So
yeah, he wanted the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That surprised me.
So I had a question for us to go off of, which I'm curious. So Spotlight famously, I guess not famously, but we got to go down history this way, only won 2 Oscars, including Best Picture. First time since 1953 that happened. And so I do think it's interesting when I talk about subtlety, you are looking at director goes to The Revenant, which is this very big, we shot in the wilderness and in the winter and everything, and then like acting, like you said, it's a lot of subtle performances, minus that one Oscar clip, and you know, it's more of an ensemble movie, so do you really give it to Ruffalo or Liev Schreiber? There's so many great performances in that movie, and then you know, you get into like cinematography, it's very kind of simply shot. Editing, it's very simply edited, so it's sort of this thing of like, as much as I think subtlety is there, you're also seeing like it probably lost a lot because it isn't as showy. So I'm curious if you guys feel that way, or why you think Spotlight only had 2 wins yet still won Best Picture.
Because Spotlight's a good put together film, but it's not exemplary in a lot of its categories. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It doesn't really stand out in anything other than maybe just overall quality story. And then writing.
Like, yeah, for script and writing and that, but I wouldn't say its direction is very great. I wouldn't say.
See, I would say the direction is good, but only because the acting is so good.
It's good. No, exactly.
We often forget the acting as direction.
I do-
but I understand what
I do-
direction you want Coogler
I
too.
appreciated
like I said,
Spotlight winning Best Picture because
Yeah.
I find it to be a very accessible film. It's a film that a lot of people could watch and enjoy, as opposed to a lot of the other films that were in the category that are not accessible to most people. The Revenant is a unpleasant movie-going experience, similar to Room. I mean, they both are just they're
I enjoyed watching
watch
it.
films. They're not.
They're both.
Yeah.
To watch films, they're not.
Jack, you love.
It's just-
Andrew, you love Drive.
They're not
you know,
films that
you like dark,
everybody
violent
could
stuff.
watch, but you know,
Everybody could watch.
Spotlight is a film that anybody could watch and pretty much anybody could get and enjoy. And I think that while the
And I think that.
really,
I strongly disagree with you, Bobbye.
Yeah, I don't know if I
I've
heard
had
that.
I've
Yeah,
had
no,
people not
Revenant
be able
make
to
it-
get through
Okay,
Spotlight.
can I say before Jack talks? I will agree with what Bobbye said, because for me, at
You
least-
can't win. I will always talk first.
No, but for me, like y'all have known me for several years now. Like, action and superhero movies are like basically my bread and butter. But when I was watching Spotlight, I mean, yes, for me, because of that, it took like maybe like a good 45 minutes for me to like really get into the film, for it to really click for me. But I still really enjoyed the film because it wasn't The Revenant, which was tough as hell to watch, to make it through. But for me, because like, it did feel accessible for me to be, okay, I can watch this movie, I can enjoy it, I can fully appreciate the story and the acting quality that is being presented.
I completely agree with that. Even I'm not a journalist myself, but you know, it was just such a compelling story. Like you know, it's similar in my mind. I don't think it's as good as The Shawshank Redemption, but I think it's similar to The Shawshank Redemption in that it's we're telling a story about an experience that most people don't live, but the story is told in a way that, you know, the average viewer can kind of relate to what's going on and can kind of get behind it. And I think that was the strength of the movie. And I completely agree with Bobbye that, like, you know, the issue with The Revenant and Room is that you leave the theater and, you know, your day is ruined, unfortunately, just because they're so such
all right,
downers.
I'm gonna
man.
stop
I
you
didn't
guys
want to
there.
interrupt your
Because, like,
amazing point.
if you
but-
guys are comparing The Revenant and Spotlight here and saying Spotlight's happy-go-lucky, I failed to get both my sisters, two of my friends, as well as my girlfriend to watch this movie because we would start, and that's why I've had to watch it like 5 minutes before this podcast, is because like I couldn't get people like through the first 30 minutes of this film, and I think that you guys like this movie is is much more subtle, and it doesn't give a flash out there, and that's the thing is I was invested in this movie, but I definitely observed that it's not a fun movie to watch
not
in
by
the same
any-
way that The Revenant is.
No.
Like
No.
The
Well-
Revenant is physical, is a little bit. There's a little bit of physical pain, torture bit to The Revenant that I understand is unpleasant.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. It's just. It depends like what kind of pain and torture you want, because the film was
Right.
looking at both. Though, I will give you this: Spotlight is definitely like more upbeat in terms of like it's the good guys getting these bad guys, but it's not pleasant by any stretch here, guys. And I think like and I got, you know, people easier to The Revenant to see Leo's performance. And again, Leonardo DiCaprio. That's all I had to say to get Katie to the movie.
I don't care.
It's not even her thing, but I think that's the point, is like in terms of like accessibility, like I think that, like, you know, The Revenant is more accessible. I mean, whether or not
Well-
the end performance leaves you happy or sad, like I think both kind of left you a little bit melancholy.
I think the most watchable movie of the year was probably Martian, like whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
It's just like every year you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to pick.
Yeah.
You have to pick as a movie guy, and like if people know you're the movie guy, you have to pick like the movie you can tell everybody to go see, whatever.
Yep.
And Martian is like that's the one. Even my grandma loved The Martian, which blew
Yeah.
me away. So it's like that's just the most watchable one. So I don't
think-
think you're right. It's not necessarily always the most watchable
Well, I think,
movie.
too,
Otherwise,
just-
The Martian probably would have won.
Just because of the subject matter of Spotlight, I mean, I think automatically out of the gate, you've got a lot of people. It's like, you know, I go to the movies to be entertained or to just sort of escape, you know, the unpleasantness for a few hours. And I don't think the first thing you think of is, yeah, I want to see, you know, a movie about, you know, that subject matter. So I think that's probably why its box office numbers were so low. It's just because it's not the kind of movie that you typically go see when you're looking to get away for a few hours.
So
No,
Andrew,
definitely, and like I almost bummed me out. I loved Room so much because it's hard to be like, you should go see it. It's about Well,
Yeah, right.
Very tough sell.
Well, so I agree with Andrew, and I think the reason the box office numbers were lower is just the subject matter of the film. But I think, like, you could see a similar effect to what happened with the Shawshank Redemption. Like, when it was made, its box office numbers were really low. But if you look at it today, it's the number one highest rated movie on IMDb.
Yeah.
And it did really, really well after the fact. But that was only after, kind of the word had gotten out about how good the movie was. And even though it is a kind of a prison drama, it kind of appeals to universal themes that kind of everyone can kind of get behind. So I think we're going to see as we get further away that Spotlight's going to do really well. But yeah, it's initially a hard sell to get people to the theaters.
I think so, but I do think Spotlight's a little bit less Hollywood-ish than Shawshank. I do like Shawshank a lot. Despite its huge overlove, I still like it a lot. But I think Spotlight does end on a very, very interesting note, which is, there isn't like a big thing where they drop it down on the lawyer's desk and the lawyer's like, we did it. Like, the lawyer has a very interesting, they play it really well, which is like, I'm glad you guys did. Oh, God, it's the box of coffee again. I can't focus on anything. And it jumped right to Jack, just like, rah, rah, rah,
I'm glad it's back.
Whatever, Spotlight's good. I forgot my point.
Sorry, I lost the call there for a minute. I had to go get my coffee.
Well, so I think that's a good point, Jack. In that, this is the lawyer in me. It's like, the work is never done, man. Like, it's a shitty situation all around, and you're always going to have those poor clients coming in, like,
Yeah.
kind of the problem with being a public interest lawyer, but we love them.
I mean, yeah, you love them, but at the same time, you just have to admit that their life is total shit.
Right, well, we're all going to share that John Oliver clip and then not fund you guys better.
Man, that got a lot of likes. Too bad it didn't get any money. All right. So that's about drawing us close to the 1 hour mark. I think we're going to go ahead and close up here a bit. But first up, I want to go ahead and write down we're going to do a 0 to 10 rating of Spotlight, and then we're going to average out to get to the Movie Gang podcast. The Movie Gang podcast rating for Spotlight. So I'm going to give everyone one chance to rate the movie in about 30 seconds to kind of justify your answer. And so up first, we're going to have Andrew.
Oh, God.
Between 1 and 10?
Andrew?
What's the scale?
0 to 10. You're going to rate Spotlight.
0 to 10. Oh, boy.
And I'll give this too. Like, I've been pretty brutal because, like, I gave Star Wars a 6, and I said it was slightly above average. So I think, like, thanks, friend. I appreciate it. I mean, it just depends on how you do this. I know. Like, it depends how brutal you want to be. I leave everyone to their own judgments of the matter. We understand that it's a stupid way of rating things, but we have to put a score on something. And, if so far, like, with everyone kind of averaging out, it kind of usually leads to a pretty good number for the movie, I feel like. So give us your best shot.
Oh, man, that's so tough. I gotta go first. I guess I'll preface. It's hard because...
Okay, well, we can switch it about.
Sorry?
Hey, Andrew, think about it a minute. This is your first time on the podcast, so we're going to go to Sean.
Okay, yeah, I got to think about this.
So I give Spotlight a 9.75, and I know that's really high.
What the fuck?
Damn.
Pitchfork.
Why the fuck are you making me, like,
I'm the one who
do
gets
these
the
maths?
What happened?
The lawyer can't do integers, guys.
And well, it's not. I didn't think it was a perfect film, so I saved my 10s for perfect film. But it was really, really, really good. It's the best film I think I've seen in probably 2 years. And I think what made it so good is the cast is really great. Like, there's no one who kind of stands out. Mark Ruffalo does a wonderful job. Liv Schreiber does a great job as Marty Baron. They all researched the folks they were playing really well and kind of gave convincing performances. And at the end of the day, it was a really impactful message. Like, when the screen goes blank at the end, and then you see all the cities where this was people kids were getting molested by priests, and it went on for several pages. I hadn't kind of felt that kind of an emotion at the end of the movie in a long time, and it really kind of hit you in the gut there. And I thought it wrapped it up really well. So yeah, so a 9.75. I know it's high, but I love the film. It was great, and I'm happy it won this picture.
All right, and next up we have Trevor.
All right, I'll give it a 9 out of 10, just because I'm hesitant to say it was perfect. I just think more than anything, what it had going for it is that with such an incendiary issue, like Bobbye was saying, it kind of pulls its punches, goes for subtlety, and it could have been a lot more inflammatory and just gone for like really easy moments than it did. And so I really respected it for that. At the same time, I don't think we really talked about this, but with the fact of it being set in journalism pre-internet, there were kind of a lot of like little jokes in there about that I really appreciated, and it really made me realize just the history of it, where it was coming from. But there's just like one in particular I'm thinking of where there's a frickin' billboard when Mark Ruffalo is standing outside his car that's talking about like AOL dial-up or something.
Oh yeah,
It's just
AOL,
kinda,
stay
like,
connected.
broke the fourth wall a little bit. So like that is the only thing I can think of, and I acknowledge that as nitpicky. But I guess if for that no other reason, 9 out of 10.
Sweet. Next up, we have Peter.
Okay. I'm going to give Spotlight an 8 out of 10. For me, I will say that because I'm more of like a casual moviegoer. Movies that usually go for like Oscar Best Picture are not usually the stuff I go see. For me, I'll give it an 8 because I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it. But at least for me, I can understand that there were definitely parts in the film where I was kind of like, okay, this is moving a little slow for me. Where is it going to go? But once I really got into the film, like it started to, I guess, pick up. You know, I'll put that in quotes. That's when I really started to enjoy the film, and I really saw the quality and the acting and the writing and the story that was being told. Like as you mentioned earlier, a story about a story, and so that's when I began to really appreciate what was being presented.
All right. And then we have Bobbye.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yep.
I would give
You.
Spotlight an 8.5. I thought it was a really accessible film. I thought it was a really human film. I thought it was a well-told story, and it's one of the few films in the Best Picture category that I felt really engrossed in from the beginning. I know some of you guys felt differently, but most of the other movies that I watched from the Best Picture category, I found myself at one point or another being pulled out of the film for various reasons. Be it things were over-dramatic, there was too much CGI, the acting, I didn't, whatever it was, there were various reasons I was pulled out of every single other movie. And this one, it told the story in a way that I really felt that I could sink into it and stay completely engrossed up until the credits rolled. So for that reason, I give it an 8.5.
Damn. Ben, you're up.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I think on its ambitions, it's absolutely a 10 out of 10 in that it definitely tries to do exactly what it's trying to do. I can't see it doing better, but I think with my films, I do just tend to rate ambition and those scenes that I come back to or those emotional moments, and it did leave me cold in a very beautiful, well-done way, but I think it's the best movie it could have been, but it's not the best movie for me, I think, in that sense. And that's why I give it like an 8 out of 10, where it's really good. It's such a good film. I think they did exactly what they wanted to do, but just didn't want to go for those heights, and it's not its fault, but I just think it kind of keeps it from being a masterpiece.
All right, and I will give it an 8 out of 10 as well, because 9 is one of my favorite movies of all time, and 10 is Top Gun, and every other movie can go fuck itself.
Wow.
But seriously,
I agree with that.
Shout
out to Tom Cruise.
I know.
You made Andrew very happy.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. For the movie cast right now, can we all just agree retroactively that Top Gun was a 10?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even.
I reserved my time.
Not even open
I
for
reserved
debate.
10s for Blade 2.
It's like a
All
6,
people
Jack.
that don't agree to that, go fuck yourself, Sean. Seriously, of all these
5 at
moments,
best.
and I'm usually joking about the go fuck yourself, but this is a serious go fuck yourself.
Just next podcast, anytime he talks, replace his audio with Danger Zone.
Yeah.
We need to have an episode dedicated just to Top Gun.
God, we got Jack singing on the podcast. It's horrible.
My God.
Highway
Nobody asked for karaoke.
No one's going to listen to
You
this.
got it anyway.
I came a little listening to my own voice. All right, Andrew, you're up.
All right. I guess it was a good movie. Looking at what it was trying to do, I mean, obviously the filmmakers were very passionate about the subject matter and about trying to raise awareness. Just for me personally, I mean, I have a lot of familiarity with what went on, just because of upbringing, and so it wasn't anything that it didn't reveal a whole lot that I didn't already know about the cases. So that's not necessarily a fault of the film. It was definitely tough to sit through. It was not what I would say it was a pleasant movie to watch, but I do applaud what was trying to be accomplished, and obviously everyone involved brought their A game. So I'm torn between 7.5 and 8, probably leaning more towards 8. The other thing too you have to realize about me is that I'm a cinematographer, so that always colors my ratings for films, and I know that's not right, but it's true.
I'm thinking a 7.5 here, Andrew.
Well, it's
What's your Roger Deakins gradient scale? If Roger Deakins is shooting at this like 3.
Can you go ahead and give me the numbers so I can do
it's
math?
hard because, like, for a cinematographer, something like Spotlight is sort of their worst nightmare. It's just people sitting in rooms talking.
You don't want to rock that boat. You want to be entirely in that sort of movie. Like, you want the cinematography to be almost entirely invisible.
And it was, yeah.
And,
Right.
and it was. It did exactly what it needed to do.
Yeah.
It is not like if somebody was to give me that movie, I would say, well, I'm not shooting for best cinematography awards here. You're not.
Yeah.
If you were, if someone did something weird, it'd be so out of place and everyone would hate it.
Yeah, and I can't remember who the DP was. I think it might have been. I think his last name's Akata. He's Japanese, but I mean, I think with what the script he was given, I think he did. Really an amazing job, because he was hired to shoot the movie as straightforward as possible, without bringing an unnecessary amount of style to it that would have distracted from the this very documentary style that they were going for. So he did a great job of shooting the film without drawing attention to his work, which would have distracted from the story. So. Yeah, I'm gonna give Spotlight an 8. Obviously, there was a few other films that I was really pulling for in the Best Picture category, but I'll give it an 8.
All right, and if my math is correct, then the Movie Gang podcast for Spotlight gives it an 8.41111 something bullshit 8.5. All right.
It's probably my fault.
Probably.
Most likely not 7.5. Can we just make a rule that like whole fucking numbers from here on out are whole or a half?
I think you should.
Like fuck you, Sean.
No pitchfork rating over here.
No half scores. You can't.
9.75. Like it's perfect, but not. But like he has a nose hair out of place in one scene. 9.75.
It's a legitimate rating.
Stop showing your asshole. All right. So before we get to the bet of the week and to close out the show, and unfortunately somebody's going to end up closing out the show. God damn it. I want to go ahead and set up the next bet. So Ben, you had an idea for bets this week. And for the record, at this point, we have the past 2 podcasts. I think we have 1 point for Sarah and 1 point for Peter, if I'm correct. Whoa, no, hold on. Who closed that last podcast?
I think Sarah Becker did.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we did the first bet, so this is technically the second bet. So Sarah's the only one with a point at this point. Okay, cool. So I'm just you didn't win shit, Peter. Damn it! Stop trying to win stuff. God damn it! All right, Ben, your idea.
So me and my friends like to do this thing where we bet on upcoming big movies, especially superhero movies, are interesting to do for Rotten Tomatoes scores, because they can vary all over the place. We tried to do it with Deadpool. We all got it very wrong. It was way higher than we all expected. But so I thought maybe for Batman vs. Superman. I mean, Man of Steel was like a 53. It kind of had this very interesting Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's these darker movies that kind of try and go for more ambitious. They're not as easy to predict as sort of the Marvel, more comedic films. So I think it could be interesting. And I think we should rate it between like a 5% range, so like 70 to 74. So you got like your little range there. You know what I mean?
So wait. What do you mean by a 5% range? Pardon me.
Because you have 5%, so if you did 70 through 74%, so you'd have 70, 71, 72, 73,
Okay,
74.
yeah. So
if any of those, you'd win.
So everyone's gonna pick 5%.
Yeah, they're 5% range. So I'm gonna say, since this is my idea, no, I'd say 75 through 80, or is that right? Yeah.
All right. But Ben, then no one else can pick through that range.
Right. So I guess
That's
the question
bullshit.
is who
Okay.
can pick which
We're
one
not-
when,
But
you
you see,
guys either
because
agree
you
or,
went-
How about everyone
Ben,
just
that's
say a
not
number,
fair.
and then whoever got closest
Yeah,
to that
because
number
You wanna do that?
you're
You wanna
gonna
do Price is Right
win,
rules? We
Ben,
can do that.
because you just
Yeah,
picked
okay.
no offense, I'm pretty sure.
I'm so offended.
Right. I know you should be
Back over your
offended.
head.
You're a terrible person.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I do think we're gonna pick numbers and we'll round to the closest one. We're not gonna be too serious
Yeah,
and we're
Price
not
is
putting
Right.
money on it.
Price is Right.
Except
Sure.
the only
I'm
thing
cool
is
with
control of the final moments of this podcast. That's what's important, Ben. That's what's important in life. And I'm actually gonna start counting points, and so at the end of the year we can see who is the best movie predictor, if you will. All right. So Ben, you're up first. Pick a number.
Oh boy, this is tough. It could be all over the place, but I just think the Batman and that they're going to try to fix the Man of Steel stuff. I think it's going to be a lot loved, but I'm just going to say 72. What I'm feeling,
72% on Rotten Tomatoes. All right. Next up, we got Andrew.
I'm gonna go with 60% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Fuck. Drew.
Because it's Zack
Wow.
Snyder.
Two.
It's Zack Snyder, so
Just,
I forget you hate
just
it.
right, fresh.
Yeah,
Just
it's only
so
going to reach
close.
freshness.
if it reaches fresh, just barely.
I'd say 65.
Bobby.
I'd say 65.
65. Got the low votes here. All right. Now, who's up next? Peter.
I'm actually fairly close. I'm actually really close to Ben. I'm going to say 70. I think it's going to
70 for Peter.
about average. Average goodness.
Jesus Cristo. I don't know. Sorry. Sean.
Oh, yeah, I think it's in the 60. I'm gonna go 60. But yeah, it's Zack Snyder, for God's sake. Man of Steel is a disaster.
So I'm gonna ask here because we're gonna make you go above or below Andrew. Andrew is exactly 60. So do you want
Is he?
61 or do you want 59?
61.
61 it is.
It's like Price is Right.
All right.
Right. So if it's under
That leads
60,
me.
Andrew wins now, unless someone says under.
Exactly. Unless Trevor or me goes.
Mhm.
Trevor.
Low ball.
I'll go for 50.
Trevor.
Oh.
going to 50.
I don't give a
God.
fuck.
The big dick. Okay.
All right.
So who? Okay. Where's?
You're going to go higher than me, isn't it?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna be a dick. All right. I'm gonna say
So if
80.
you say 73, I'm going to kill you. Okay.
I'm
I'm
not gonna do that, dude. That's bitchy.
95%.
No.
I do. I'm actually. This is not out of the blue, and I'm not picking the top number. I actually do think it's interesting, and
Since everyone...
there's been pre-buzz about it existing, being this thing, and I think people are kind of ready for DC to get its shit together, and with its extended universe kind of showing up, and with the rise of Wonder Woman, and kind of I don't think Zack Snyder fits a Batman or Superman individual movie, but I think his ability to at least have a cast of characters move from point A to B, and the fact that they're actually focusing on stronger themes, or the early buzz suggests that it's actually too smart for theaters, which I don't believe for a fucking second.
All right.
No.
But I don't know. I just don't believe it's too smart for theaters. I don't know anyone that ever says
It's
that.
probably
can
going to be
go
as
fuck
smart as
themselves.
Inception, which made $800 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, it's a superhero movie, and I don't know what we expect from that. But I'm thinking that it might actually this feels like a better fit for him than Superman.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have to say. And I think
Can
getting
I-
it a little bit wilder. Yeah, Ben, what's
Can
up?
I be a dick since I have the only non-5 base answer? Can I change it to 75 now so that it fixes my OCD? Okay.
I mean,
75.
yeah, it's okay. Where are you, Ben? 75. Okay, cool.
Okay, so if it's above 80, Jack wins. If it's under 50, Trevor wins. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So me and Trevor have the majority of the
The
bet.
hats and the
But
pants.
I didn't realize that Trevor actually has 50% of
Yep.
the score possibility category.
Well, he does, but that is below 50 is really bad.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen very often.
No, it's bad. It's
Once you get past 50, the score doesn't matter really. It's very
it's
true.
tanked. All right. Does anyone else want to change their number?
No,
All right.
I'm happy with.
I'm locking it in.
You want to run through them real quick?
Locked in. That's what that sound is. Like, I have a sound
Oh,
thing
God.
this week for locking things in because y'all made fun of my face voice last
What
week.
tin was that? Was that like for peanuts?
No, it's for Welsh tea that my girlfriend's mother got me.
Aw.
So it might be poisoned, and that's why it's being used to lock in the votes.
I can say with a girlfriend with also British parents, it's awesome. They give you all the good stuff.
It's pretty. Yeah, they are. It is. I have this really badass scarf, and I really it's wool. It's wool, and it's like so warm. Okay, all right. So we're gonna go through the votes for last week, and I think we went over the website.
Can I
and
just
we were
ask
kind
me
of
hear the bet one more time so I know all the numbers in my head?
What?
Can you say all
Oh.
the numbers we all picked just now?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go through them real quick. So for Sean, we have 61%. For Trevor, we have 50%. For Peter, we have 70%. For Bobbye, we have 65%. For Ben, we have 75%. And for myself, we have 80%. And Andrew was at 60%.
All right.
There we go.
And do we want to say like Saturday lock in right before Sunday, like before we record or whatever?
I was gonna do it at the moment of recording.
Okay.
I mean, it depends. Like, do you want to lock?
Yeah,
it
whenever
in?
we record, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just worried that like if it goes to. I know you're right. Like if like I'll do a lock in like that morning, and I take a look at it like right before we record, and that's like at that moment, unless anything else changes, because that actually made a difference in our last vote significantly because we pushed it back, and because of that, like it went like Star Wars went like three paces difference. So, looking at the overall, and I just need to apologize. I want to go ahead and close out the show before we reveal the votes and who gets to close out the show this week. But essentially, we just want to go ahead and ask if anyone's interested in posting some comments and some other questions for us. We'd love to do a comments section here and open up some questions, and we answer some questions to the audience about things about us or about movies that we review or about our assholes because we're lovable. So that's the whole point. If you got any things, just send them to newmanvisualproductions.com or newmanvisualproductions@gmail.com. Or does anyone
Please
else
don't
want to
ask
list their
questions about my
email or
asshole.
Twitter handle?
Please don't ask questions about my asshole.
Unless your name is Jack. That was super creepy. I'm sorry. I'm really
let's
sorry.
be fair. She is the only woman on our podcast as of right now. So she
really-
would get the most
really
asshole
pathetic.
questions.
Yay!
I don't even
Real,
want to think about it. Okay.
Not touchable now.
I don't know, man. Ben, my asshole is particularly
Let's not go
beautiful.
here.
Are we
It's
still
not
on
that I
about
ever
this?
look at it with a hand
Is that our
mirror.
next bet?
Okay,
Who's the most
alright.
beautiful
Moving
asshole?
on. Moving on.
burning precious
Alright.
minutes here.
That's what I'm doing instead
All
of
right.
work, guys.
So if anyone else, go to Newman Visuals at Twitter and send us some questions. We'd love to answer them next week. Opening up the vault to see what the votes from
That's
last
the
week.
worst
Vault
vault sound I've ever
opening.
heard.
Cool. Who gives a shit? Fuck you.
a
I'm
pretty
not
shitty
gonna
vault,
buy an
Jack.
actual vault. Like, go fuck yourself. Or the sound. I'm not even gonna buy the sound thing for a vault because those are expensive on like your shirt.
Super ego, this is not.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, so last week when we went through the thing, we kind of did it on a kind of a double Jeopardy type of basis to see who would win. I'm gonna go ahead and I essentially won last week going over like Spotlight, and we said like, oh, then we'll go to the next best thing, and we'll go to the next best thing, and after that, eventually we said like, you know, whoever had like the most wins and whoever got through the most tiebreakers would win. That's stupid, and it's very complicated for me to figure out. So, and we all did Oscar ballots anyways. Stop whacking your head, Peter. I see you. The whole point is that instead we're going to go by who essentially won the most, and I'm going to get everyone to go ahead and reveal their ballots from the Oscars this year. So I was 16 and 24, and Peter, you were
I was horrible. I did 9 out of 24.
I don't remember.
brutal. Bobbye,
I know I didn't win.
you didn't win. I remember that.
You did not tell me to remember how many I got.
How many I got?
I
You
don't
know
care.
what?
I know
Fuck
you
you
didn't win.
too.
You didn't come in
I think
first,
I
you
got, like,
came in
15.
last.
Okay, Ben.
I believe I was the same as you, 16, 24.
Yeah, no, you were 17. You beat me by 1. It
Oh,
pissed me
17,
off.
okay.
Yeah, I'll remember
Yeah, that's right,
for you
because I lost
it did piss me off.
because I lost all short films, and that would have got me to
Yeah, and that was the thing is because I totally lost on Mad Max. If I had called the Mad Max and the technicals, because Andrew, did you make a ballot this year?
Yeah, but I don't have my results in front of me, so I won't even.
Okay, cool. Well, and you weren't able to.
I got a lot.
So I'm
I
sorry.
got a lot wrong. Let's put it that way.
Cool.
It was actually
So I
one
believe
of my
the
worst
winner
years.
was Sean. And Sean, you want to tell us how many you got?
I got 18 out of 24.
Oh.
So you beat me by 2. You beat Ben by 1.
Wow.
So don't get too don't get too excited.
Sean, I was just curious, which of the surprises did you get? Did you get Ex Machina or
I got Mark Rylance for Best Supporting Actor.
He if I recall from his ballot, he got really strongly through the technicals. Like he swept the technicals, and I screwed up those.
I remember on the chat you had a very good mantra: Mad Max for every technical award.
No, that's exactly what he did, and
that's exactly what I did.
And he like took it home and got like I did much better than him in the main section, but at the same time there were so many back-ended awards that he like took home in terms of Mad Max. Like,
Are you bitter at all, Jack? Are you a little bitter?
Me, so there you go. No, you can't tell that at all, Bobbye. All right, so Sean, you have won the right to promote both anything that you want to promote, as well as closing out the show. You get 30 seconds to both close out, or you get as much time as you essentially want to close out the show, as well as you get 30 seconds to disagree with anyone on this podcast and kind of have the last word of the podcast. So,
awesome.
Your victory, sir.
Well, I'll start with the Oscars. I was really happy with how all the main awards went. I thought Spotlight deserved to win, and I was happy with Mad Max getting the technical awards, and I was happy that Ex Machina got an award. That was great. I thought all the movies who deserved to get stuff went home happy. So since I pretty much agreed with the awards, let me do a little superhero movie rant. They've been terrible lately. Absolutely god awful. Like Avengers 2 was a piece of garbage. That was a complete waste of money.
Shut up, Peter.
All the sequels, like the Thor sequels, the Captain America sequels, have all not done anything for movie craft at all, other than like waste more money that could be going to movies like Ex Machina. The only really good superhero film that I can recall recently was Guardians of the Galaxy, because it did a parody of superhero films. So I think that the genre is kind of it's stagnated, and I'm hoping that something new comes out of that old bag of tricks, because I feel like we've been going back into it since like Iron Man in like the early 2000s. It's been 10 years, man. Like, can we move on to like new ideas in this genre? All right, that's all I have. Mic drop. So thanks y'all for coming into the show. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll join us next time.